I found a hospital that doesn't treat the sick, it keeps their souls. The first time I saw the hospital, it wasn't in person, it was in the background of an old photograph I found in a thrift store. The image was yellowed, the edges curled with age. A group of nurses stood smiling in the foreground, their uniforms pristine white, but behind them loomed a towering brick building, its windows black and uneven like watching eyes. Something about it made my skin crawl. A week later, I returned to the same shop and asked the owner about the photo. He shrugged, said it came from a box of estate items from an old woman who had passed away in a nearby town. No name, no details. Just a box. But tucked inside that box was something else, a folded, hand-drawn map. It marked a route through the forest, ending with a red X labeled St. Corvus Hospital. I'd never heard of it. Google Maps turned up nothing. Local records? Blank. But I'm not the kind of person to leave a mystery alone. I'm a documentarian. I've explored ghost towns, abandoned prisons, even war bunkers, but something about this felt different. Urgent. Personal. So I packed my gear, camera, flashlight, backup batteries, and followed the trail. The further I drove, the less signal I had. Trees pressed tight against the road, their branches clawing at my car like they didn't want me to pass. By the time I reached the rusted iron gates of St. Corvus, it was already dusk. The hospital towered in silence, half swallowed by vines, its windows dark and broken like shattered teeth. I stepped out of the car and immediately I felt it. The air here was wrong. Like it had been waiting for me. The main doors were swollen shut with rot, so I circled the building and found a broken window near the west wing. The moment I climbed through, the temperature dropped like I'd stepped into a freezer. My breath hung in the air. Inside, the hospital was a time capsule of decay, peeling paint, rusted gurneys, scattered patient files frozen in motion like someone had abandoned the place in a panic. The walls groaned with every step like they remembered. I flicked on my flashlight. Its beam swept across the nurse's station, then stopped. There was an old patient intake book lying open on the desk. No dust on it. Fresh ink. My name was the last one written in blocky, slanted letters. Admitted, Thomas Hale, July 1, 2025, status, observation. I hadn't told anyone where I was going. A low creak echoed from the hallway to my right. I swung the light toward it, but there was nothing, just cracked tiles and a broken wheelchair tipped over in the middle of the corridor. Then a whisper. Too soft to understand but close. I raised my camera and hit record. The screen flickered, static buzzing through the audio. Something moved past the frame. Just a blur. I called out, "Hello? Is anyone here?" Silence. Then the elevator at the end of the hallway dinged. The doors slowly creaked open. My flashlight flickered. Then died. I should have turned and left. But I didn't. I stepped inside. The panel inside had no floor numbers. Just one button glowing red. Basement. It lit up on its own. The doors slid shut behind me, and I started to descend. The elevator rattled as it descended, the flickering overhead light pulsing like a heartbeat. I pressed the emergency stop. Nothing happened. The panel was dead except for that glowing red button. Finally, the doors creaked open. Darkness. Not just shadow, total black like the basement swallowed all light. I raised my backup flashlight and stepped out, the beam barely piercing the heavy gloom. The walls here were different. Older. Stone instead of tile. Damp. Like they weren't built for patients, but for storage. Or burial. I followed a narrow hallway, each step echoing like it didn't belong to me. On the left, doors lined the walls. No handles. Just small, rusted slits at eye level like old isolation cells. Something scraped from inside the first one. I froze. "Thomas," a voice hissed. I stepped back. My name. Said my name. Then the next door banged, loud and violent like something was throwing itself against it from inside. Another voice joined. Then another. All whispering. "Let us out." I ran. The corridor twisted like a maze, but I kept moving until I found a room at the end, marked in faded letters. Morgue. Inside it smelled like wet metal and mildew. Drawers lined the walls, the kind where they store bodies. Some were half open, others missing. In the center of the room was a gurney. And on it, something covered in a stained sheet. My hands moved before my mind could stop them. I reached for the sheet. Pulled it back. It was me. Dead. Eyes wide open. Mouth agape in silent terror. Before I could scream, the body sat up. And whispered, "You're already here." I stumbled backward, slamming into cold steel drawers as my own corpse sat upright, eyes glassy but staring directly at me. Its lips moved again. "You're already here." And then, it collapsed. Look, dead again. I turned and ran, but the morgue door slammed shut. Lock. My flashlight flickered, then died completely, leaving me in thick, syrupy black. I hit the walls, searching for a switch, a crack, anything. Then, light. Faint. Pale blue, flickering like candlelight. It came from under one of the body drawers. It slid open slowly on its own. A child crawled out. Pale. Hair matted. Hospital bracelet still on her thin wrist. She looked up at me with empty sockets where her eyes should have been. We don't rest here. The walls began to hum. That same sound I'd heard in the elevator, the deep mechanical groan of something alive. And suddenly I wasn't alone. They stepped from the shadows, patients, nurses, even doctors. Faces bloated, skin blistered, surgical tools still embedded in their flesh. All of them moved in unison. All of them watching me. You checked in, one of them rasped. Now you stay. I backed into the gurney again. The corpse, my corpse, was gone. The crowd circled me, whispering, chanting. Then from behind them came the sharp, rhythmic click of heels on tile. Everyone froze. A woman emerged, tall, thin, dressed in a pristine white nurse's uniform. Face porcelain smooth, eyes pure black. She smiled. Mr. Hale, your treatment is just beginning. She raised a long needle filled with black fluid. The tip shimmered in the light like obsidian. And then, darkness again. But I was still awake, still aware. And I couldn't move my body anymore. I don't know how much time passed. I was floating inside myself, paralyzed yet completely aware. The nurse's voice echoed in the dark like a lullaby, looping over and over. Just breathe, Mr. Hale. This is part of the process. I couldn't scream, couldn't blink, but I felt everything. The cold steel beneath me, the needle sliding into my spine, the sensation of something foreign crawling into my veins. Then something snapped. The pain vanished, and I was standing outside the hospital, alone. My car was gone. The road behind me was overgrown, completely swallowed by forest. I looked down at my hands. Pale. Veins dark like ink under the skin. There was something wrong with my reflection in the broken window beside me. My eyes were too black. My face slightly off, like a memory drawn from someone else's mind. I turned back toward the building. It was gone. No hospital. No gates. Just trees. Silence. But in my pocket, the intake form. I unfolded it with shaking hands. My name was still there, but something had changed. Status, discharged. I thought it was over. Until I got home. The footage I recorded? All gone, except one file. A 12-second clip of me lying on the gurney, whispering something over and over in reverse. I reversed the audio. My voice said, St. Corvus admits what can't be buried. If you find this, it's too late. They're already watching. Sometimes I still hear the elevator ding in my apartment. Sometimes I wake up with surgical tape on my skin. And in the mirror. I don't blink when I do. I thought I left that place. But whatever it was, never discharged me.